Alright, good evening. If you're new here, welcome. My trail name is Waldo and I hike with just the bare necessities. And the bare necessities is what I'm going to be talking about in this video. That is all the hiking and camping gear that I brought with me on my through hike of the Arizona Trail. So I just finished that trail. It's about 800 miles, took about 32 days, all the way from Mexico to Utah, so the whole state of Arizona. And I did that with just a 5.5 pound base weight. And the base weight is the weight of the pack before adding food and water. So my first video on this channel is a gear list video explaining what I'm planning to bring to Arizona. But now that I've actually done the trail, I figured I'll give an update on how the gear performed, what worked well and what didn't work so well. So if you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. I have a video for every single day on the Arizona Trail, and I'm gonna have a video for every single day on the Continental Divide Trail. So subscribe if you're interested in that content. I also have gear reviews and stuff like that. So starting off with the clothes that I was wearing. The shoes that I wore were Vivo Barefoot Primus Trail FG, which stands for firm ground. And these are barefoot shoes, they're really minimalist. And I wore the same pair of shoes for the whole trail. So the tread is kind of gone now, but there's no hole in the sole. So I feel like I could actually put a lot more miles in these. There is a hole in the side of the mesh, but I didn't find that was too much of an issue. Yeah, I really like hiking in these shoes. When they get wet, they dry really quickly. The only thing is, if it's really rocky terrain, it's a bit tough on the feet, but your feet kind of adjust and get used to it. The shorts I was wearing were Lululemon shorts. They were fine, pretty just standard kind of sportswear. The socks I was wearing were darn tough socks. They're merino wool. A lot of people use those socks. They're pretty good. The shirt I was wearing, you can see that shirt in all of my Arizona Trail videos. And that was a Columbia Silver Ridge shirt, which is good. It's good for it dries fairly quickly. It's good for wicking sweat, kind of it doesn't get too soaked with sweat, kind of, I guess. Also, if it's really hot, I'd roll up the sleeves, but also just keep them down for sun protection, or put the collar up as well. It's also quite durable, so it wouldn't tear in bushes or thorns. And yeah, so moving on to the pack. This pack is a Palante pack Ultralight. And I really like this pack. One of my favorite things about it is this big stretchy pocket at the bottom. So you can put a lot of food and snacks in here. And as you're walking, you can just grab a snack, pull it out, eat it, take the wrapper and just put it in this little hole on the other side. So it's really convenient if you want to just keep moving. So yeah, let me just show you, it's a really kind of stretchy pocket here. You can fit a lot in there. And then you've obviously got a mesh pocket here, which you can fit a lot of stuff in. I often put snacks in there, sometimes my rain jacket, that kind of thing. I find the pockets at the front are really good. So these stretchy mesh pockets, they just are the perfect size, for a phone. So I'd put my phone here and could just easily take the phone out. This is a Samsung Galaxy S10e, which I use to film the videos on. So for some reason something went wrong with the footage, so I'm actually recording the rest of this video the following day, hence the change in lighting. But as I was saying, the Samsung Galaxy S10e was a good phone for my purposes. Basically just navigation, photos, but also video making. And then in the other stretchy pocket, I had a Garmin InReach Explorer Plus. And this is basically just an emergency device. I didn't really use it much. It has an SOS function on it in case anything goes wrong, but also if your phone dies or breaks, then you can use this for navigation as well. So yeah, those stretchy pockets on the Palante pack are really good. They're just the perfect size and the stretchiness of them is really good. In the side pockets, I would keep my water bottles. The side pockets are adjustable. If it's a smaller item in there, you can actually cinch it down quite nicely so it's not moving around all over the place. So I would keep 2 1.5 litre smart water bottles. This is just a 1 litre bottle, but when I was on the Arizona Trail, I had a 1.5 litre on each side. And now moving on to water filter. This is the first thing that I'll talk about, which is kind of didn't go so well. So basically this is Catadine B3, and Straight out of the box, this is actually a really good filter. Big fan of it. At first I was like, wow, this is amazing, because the flow rate is so good. So it also has a big wide mouth to it, so it's really good for scooping up water from like really shallow sources, which I did actually have to do a couple times, where I was just kind of scooping in like a really shallow, you know, area. But the problem with this filter is that it's slowed down a crazy amount. So after a certain point in the trail, like only like a week or two in, it was really slow flow rate. So I ended up actually switching it out for a Sawyer Squeeze. But yeah, the cast iron B3 is cool, I like it, but apparently you can get pre-filters for it, so you can put like a little pre-filter around this. And apparently that improves it a huge amount in terms of it clogging up, because the main issue is that you just can't like back flush these filters. So I switched it out for a Sawyer Squeeze. A lot of people use Sawyer Squeezes, pretty much everyone is using one of these, and these are really reliable, and you can also back flush them. So you just have like a syringe that comes with the Sawyer Squeeze, put clean water in there and just squirt it through the opposite way, and if it's clogged up, that will back flush it. It also screws onto a water bottle, like a smart water bottle for example, and then you can just, I got rid of the bag that it comes with, because I find the bag it comes with is kind of annoying, and I would just screw it on a smart water bottle and just squeeze out of the bottle basically. Alright, so now moving on to the inside of the pack. I'll just show you on this top of the pack, it has this buckle, so you can actually adjust it quite easily. And the way I have the pack right now is it's like cinched all the way down, whereas if I had a lot of food, this would all be filled up and the pack would be a bit higher up and look a bit more full. So I would often keep food near the top of my pack just for easy access, but I'd also want to balance the weight out a bit and not have the pack too top heavy. So I'd keep a lot of food in this big mesh pocket, and then also, as I mentioned before, some food in the bottom pocket. So here I have the hat that I was wearing, and I wore this pretty much all the time because it was usually sunny in Arizona, and this is Sunday afternoon's ultra adventure hat. And yeah, as you can see, it like really keeps your whole face and back of the neck in the shade. So this was great. It fits well, has an adjustable strap at the back as well. So if it was really windy, I was pretty certain this was not going anywhere, whereas most other hats would fly off. So yeah, you can also just fold it down nice and small and put it in your pack. But most of the time I was honestly wearing it. And then often near the top of my pack would be my rain jacket. But before I mention the rain jacket, I should also mention the puffy jacket, which I actually currently have on right now. This would often be near the top of my pack as well, but you know, right now I got it on, and often I wore it in the mornings and evenings when it was a bit colder, and sometimes I wore it at night as well, like while I was sleeping if it was really cold. And this is an Enlightened Equipment Torrid. It's synthetic, not down, which means if it does get wet, then it will actually stay a bit more warm than a down jacket would. And yeah, I like this jacket, you know, it kept me warm. It was definitely good enough for some pretty cold temperatures I experienced. And now moving on to the rain jacket, this is another thing I'll mention which actually didn't work so well. So this is also made by Enlightened Equipment, and it's the Enlightened Equipment Visp. And I find it fits really well, it looks nice, and it's a nice jacket overall. But the problem is that it started to just soak through. So I had a day where it was like absolutely pouring rain, and I just got completely soaked underneath the jacket. And it wasn't even pouring rain for that long. Like I got soaked in like half an hour or something under the jacket. And that definitely shouldn't have happened. And I think the main reason it happened is actually because I've worn this rain jacket a lot. I've worn this rain jacket for like a year and a half, and it's like my everyday jacket in London, in Vancouver. In both places it rains a lot, so it's been through tons of rain. I tried to re-waterproof it before I headed out on the trail using Nick Wax, where you put it in the washing machine with the stuff that waterproofs it, but even that didn't really help. So for my next hike, I'm actually going to be using a Frog Togs rain jacket, and I'm going to make a separate video actually comparing the Frog Togs to this jacket. The Frog Togs is way cheaper, but there are certain pros and cons between the two jackets. And honestly, it's pretty normal for a rain jacket to kind of lose its waterproofness, but I wouldn't be surprised if maybe this rain jacket lost its waterproof ability faster than another one would, simply because it's just such a lightweight jacket and it's so thin. So maybe that's the reason, I don't know. So the food bag that I was using, and like I said, this was often near the top of my pack, was an OP sack. It's an odor-proof sack. It's quite big, you know, you can fit like easily like 5 days of food in this bag. And yeah, it's odor-proof, so you know, prevents like rodents or whatever sniffing out your food. They might still sniff it out, but you know, this helps a bit. And the issue I had with this is that the seal broke eventually, so it's no longer odor-proof. So I'm gonna have to get a new one of these. But I've actually had this one for a really long time, so this wasn't just the Arizona Trail. And the next thing I'll mention is my wind pants. So these are Enlightened equipment, wind pants as well. They're really, really lightweight and extremely thin, but they actually do make a significant difference to how warm your legs are, especially if there's a bit of a breeze. Because, you know, I was just wearing shorts all the time, and sometimes in the early morning or late evening I'd pop these on as well, and it would actually make a noticeable difference, more than I expected. I kind of thought, what's the point in these? But it actually did make a difference. It was very noticeable. And then I also have my buff, and this is just, I don't know where this is from. I've had this buff for a long time, and I wore this a lot. I would sleep in this most nights. I'd basically have it over my head, so it covered my whole head except for my face, and sometimes I would hike with it on, but I pretty much slept with it on every night. It's just really comfortable, feels good, and yeah, just keeps you warm. And the next thing in my pack is this little dry bag. This is a Z-Packs dry bag. It's a pretty small dry bag, but it just fits my electronics and a few other kind of miscellaneous items. So, you know, I have some like charging cords in here, and then I have my power bank, and the power bank is a Nightcore NB 10,000. And this is a perfect power bank. If you're trying to figure out what power bank to get, this is pretty much the perfect one. It's the most like efficient in terms of how light it is versus how much charge it gives you. So yeah, it also has quick charge on it. So you can put like USB-C to USB-C and then charge your phone quick charge. And it also means that when you charge the power bank in town, it charges faster. So I find that quite useful because I don't want to spend too long charging electronics. Especially when you're in town, you just kind of want to, you know, not spend like 3 hours at a restaurant just so you can charge your electronics. And this is the wall charger I use. This is an Anker PowerPort Nano, I think it's called. It's really small and it does quick charge. So, you know, same reasons that I like quick charge. And then had my passport in here, had some cash in here, and I had just some other small things like toilet paper. I also have a small knife here. It's a Victorinox. I think it's the Victorinox Classic. And this is a good knife. It's absolutely tiny, but it does everything that I really needed. And the main thing is the scissors. So it has these miniature scissors on it, and I'd use the scissors for cutting my nails and also like, I don't know, opening packages or cutting some string or something like that, you know, random little things. It also has tweezers on here, so you can just pull the tweezers out and use those for whatever. Maybe you get like a little cactus splinter on you or something. And then it has a little knife, and yeah, very small, weighs nothing. Had definitely some value to that. I definitely used it a bit. And then I have like a miniature toothbrush and toothpaste. So here's my toothbrush, and it's just nice and small and light. And then another thing in here is my flashlight, and this is a Rovivon A5X. This is a really good flashlight, actually. Really happy with this choice. It's rechargeable, so I charge it with my power bank, and it also has a pocket clip on it. And that pocket clip was really handy because it basically turns the flashlight into a headlamp. So I could just clip it onto my hat and I could hike like that, but mostly I would hike just holding it. And it has a lot of different brightness settings, also has a red light on it. but I could also clip it onto my buff. I couldn't really walk if it was clipped onto my buff when my buff was over my head because it would slip off, but when I was in camp I often had my buff on because it was cold and I would just clip it on, so it was actually really handy. I'm a big fan of this little light. So the next main thing I'll show in my pack is my shelter. I'm not going to fully unpack this. I think I'll do a separate video where I show my tarp setup. But this is, inside this plastic bag is a Z-Pax 7 by 9 feet tarp. It's just a flat tarp and a polycryo ground sheet, which I would lay down and then sleep on top of basically. So yeah, the Z-Pax tarp was great. I actually had some really heavy rain. I had a couple nights where it snowed, but I really tested out of the extremely heavy rain and it was great. As long as I pitched it really well, I was completely dry underneath. The tent stakes that I normally use are MSR mini groundhogs, but because I just flew with hand luggage, I couldn't bring tent stakes. So I bought tent stakes in the first town that I was in. I just bought some Nemo tent stakes, but you know, pretty much any tent stakes will do. And the ground sheet, polycryo, a lot of people ask me about that because a lot of people said the polycryo is really cheap, thin plastic. And a lot of people said that it would tear really easily in the desert, but it was fine. It was totally fine. You know, I didn't really I had maybe some really small holes in it, but not an issue at all. Made it all the way. So the polycryo ground sheet was fine and the tarp was great as well. I actually didn't bring a trekking pole. Most people bring a trekking pole to pitch the tarp, but I would just find a stick or a tree or something like that to pitch it. And that was fine. It honestly wasn't difficult to find that. I didn't need the trekking pole. All right, so I'm recording the last bit of this footage the next day, and I only have a couple more things to show you. And those are, first of all, the sleeping pad. So my sleeping pad was a Gossamer Gear 1/8 of an inch thin light, and it's cut down to torso length. So a lot of people would probably wonder, like, surely there's no way you can sleep on that, but I actually slept really well on the trail. I slept well pretty much every night. And I fold this pad in half and I put it in my pack, like right where my back would be, and that acts as like a frame kind of for the pack, and it stops like it being kind of lumpy on my back sort of. But anyway, yeah, it's a really thin pad, weighs like almost nothing. You know, I slept on some pretty rocky gravel kind of surfaces, but I was actually fine. Sometimes, I mean, most of the time I'd look for like somewhere a bit softer to sleep, but even on the rocky surfaces I was fine. And the one thing I was worried about was being too cold, because it did get quite cold at night. But at the beginning of the trail I brought with me also a Thermarest Z Lite, which is also a foam pad but a bit thicker. And I brought that just in case, because I was worried I might be too cold with this. And on the first night I camped up high, nearly 9,000 feet, up by Miller Peak. And it snowed that night, and it was definitely cold because it was snowing way down at the lower elevations as well. And I was fine with just this. So as soon as I got to the first town, I got rid of the Thermarest pad and I just used this for the rest of the trail. And I was definitely warm enough, no issues with the pad. And that was definitely in, you know, sub-freezing temperatures. And then the next thing I'll show you is the sleeping bag. It's technically actually a quilt, like a backpacking quilt rather than a sleeping bag. And this is made by Enlightened Equipment. It's the Enlightened Equipment Enigma. The Enigma has basically a closed foot box at the bottom. And the difference in a quilt and a sleeping bag is that this is kind of open where your back is. Like, it just covers your front and sides. So it has no zip. It's not like a mummy bag, you know. And it's rated to 20 degrees Fahrenheit, which is like -5 or -6 Celsius. And I was definitely warm enough. And yeah, it definitely got close to those kind of temperatures a couple nights, and most nights it was going to around freezing or slightly below freezing. I was definitely warm enough. This was good. The only thing is the down started clumping in certain areas, so there were some patches where there was kind of no down and it was getting a bit cold because of that. But when I got to town, I put it in a dryer at low heat or even no heat and just had it going around in the dryer, and that really kind of fluffed up the down, and then, you know, it got all of its warmth back. And then also part of my sleep system is, this is a silk liner. It's a sleeping bag liner. It's called the Cocoon silk liner. And it, you know, it's really a luxury item. This is definitely my least necessary item. You don't need one of these, but one of the main reasons I like having it is because I'm always inside this. It's nice and comfortable, keeps me a bit warmer. so it adds some warmth to the sleep system. But also it means that I can just wash this instead of actually washing the quilt. If you wash a quilt, you have to worry about, you know, drying it, and you also have to worry that you might mess up the down when you're washing it and waiting for it to dry and all that. This dries really quickly, is easy to wash. So yeah, I would just wash this instead of the quilt. And then the final thing is the pack liner. This is a Nylofume bag. It's just like a cheap kind of plastic bag, and it just fills the whole pack and keeps everything dry. So I wouldn't always have stuff inside this. Sometimes it would just be scrunched down at the bottom of my pack. But if I thought it was going to rain, then all my stuff would be inside here, and the top would be basically rolled down inside the pack, and it would keep everything dry. So that's everything that I brought with me on the Arizona trail. And I would say overall the ultralight backpacking gear performed very well. Actually, I was really happy with it. The main key points are that the rain jacket, not this rain jacket, but the one I was wearing earlier, the Enlightened Equipment Visp, did wet through, but again, I had used it quite a bit beforehand. The water filter, the B3, did clog up, but again, you can put pre-filters on that, which might help. And then other than that, things worked pretty well. I would say I was happy with the top, even in heavy rain. I was happy with the polycryo ground sheet, didn't really get that many holes. I was happy with the sleeping pad, but I do sleep well on hard surfaces, so take that in mind as well. And I was really happy with that little flashlight. I like that. I did lots of night hiking with it. And yeah, I would say overall the gear works really well. The Palante pack I love. I really like that backpack. And yeah, so pretty soon I'm going to be on the Continental Divide Trail. I'm going to be putting out a video for every single day on the trail, and I'm going to be putting out some more gear videos like this. So if you like this video, please do like the video and also subscribe to the channel so that you don't miss out on future content. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.